Hi Mike, this looks like a classic tutorial. The task is to lay out a shape into a torus of sorts and then scale parts of it to make the gear. Let's take a look at that. I think I've got my dimensions of my display set approximately like in the tutorial. So let's just try and do this, and I will clunk out some CPs here. And I forgot to set snap to grid before I did that, so I'm just going to select them and do snap to grid after the fact. In the book, it appears that he has peaked these CPs, selected them and peaked them with the P key. I'm going to do something just slightly different because it might look a little nicer. I'm going to select a CP on the spline and hit the comma key to select the whole spline. And then I'm going to hold down the control key and reduce the magnitude of all of these down to not quite 0 but close to it, so that now there'll still be a tiny little curve across each corner instead of a perfectly sharp edge, and that should look a little more natural. Now he wants to lay this out. The book says he's going to lathe it to 80, but when I count these, it looks like more like he has done 40, probably just for convenience. I think 80 would look better ultimately, but 40 will be quicker to do, so I'm going to select a CP on that cross section there, and I'm going to hold down the control key while I select the lathe tool, and that gives me access to this control panel. I've got this set to 40 already because I've tried this already. And so I'll hit OK, and now I can hit that tool, and we get something that does rather look like what he's got in the book there. Now comes the tedious part that he talked about. We've got to do pick 2 and skip 2. So I'll pick 2 and hold down the control key, skip 2, pick 2, skip 2, pick 2. Did I do that right? 2, skip 2, pick 2, skip 2, pick 2, skip 2, pick 2, skip 2, pick 2. I'm still holding down the control key. Skip 2, here we go. Pick 2, skip 2, pick 2. If this was hard to do those with the bounding box, I could use the lasso, like so. And skip 2, pick 2, skip 2, pick 2, and the last 2, we skip the last 2, and that gets us right back to where we started. So far so good. I'm going to name this group so I don't have to reselect those in case I'll lose it. I'm going to call those teeth. And let's see here. Now he wants to scale these. One way to do that, since we have this group, is we could go into the properties for this group and go into transform. And let's see. He wants to do this on the X and the Z axis. The Y we're going to leave the way it is. So let's go into scale here in our properties. X and Z. So I'm going to scale. He wants to scale these down to make the valley. So I'm going to set that. Let's set the X to like 20%. Let's see. There we go. Nope, that was too much. I'll do an undo. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this and drag to the left. You can't see it on the... I'm going to undo that again. Till I get back to where I was. Okay, there we're back. Let's just try something lesser. Okay, I'll try putting in 95. Not enough. I'll do an undo. Let's try 80. That's starting to look like approximately about, I'll do an undo again, Control Z to undo. Let's do 75. That looks about right. And now we have to do the Z, so I'll do a 75 there. And now that looks like that has scaled proportionally. That looks similar to what he's got in the book. They all look like they're about the same size. There's another way to do this, to eyeball it if you don't want to guess at those numbers. Let's, I'm going to do Control Z and Control Z to undo those scales that I did in the properties here. I can, while I have this group selected, I can choose the scale manipulator. And you'll notice there are these colored handles all around the sides. This one that's red and blue will let me scale in just X and Z. And if I hold down the Shift key, they will scale proportionally. They will scale equally. And I can just sort of eyeball how much scale I want here. And that's scaling the X and the Z but leaving the Y alone. So let's say that is appropriate. That would be the second way to do it. Now the other thing he talked about is he wants to sharpen up these things. He talked about selecting the whole thing. And then you could go to the properties for that temporary group and look at the bias. And you could set the in magnitude and out magnitude to something less. You could set these each to 10%. I think that's what he directs in the book. Another way to do it, if you wanted to, didn't want to select the whole group and you just want to do these teeth on the outside. Let's see, what could we do? We could also, if I selected that whole group and set the magnitude in that properties book, it would also change the magnitude on these. Let's say I just want to do them on the splines going around. I'll select a CP, I'll hit comma on my keyboard to select that entire spline. And now I can go into this bias here, and I'll set these to 10, like he suggests. Let's see. Oops, something. Oh, I did something wrong. I picked the teeth group. Don't want to do that. I wanted to pick the temporary group. Pick the CP again. Press the comma key to select the whole spline. Here's what I wanted. I wanted to do this in this temporary group. Go down to bias. I'll set this to 10. And you notice that did one side of each CP. I'll set the other one to 10. And now both sides are done. I'll do that again to the next spline down. I press the comma key to select the whole spline. I go to the temporary group. And in the bias, I set into 10. And hit tab and hit insert 10 into this next one. 10. There we go. And just for completeness, let's try the others. Select the CP, hit the comma to select the whole spline, go to the temporary group, bias. 10 and 10. And one more. Ten and 10. There we go. That looks like teeth on a gear. Those would probably be it would probably be a better gear if we'd really done 80, but this is for the purposes of this demonstration. This looks like the end result here. Yep, that looks like a gear with teeth. Hope that helps, Mike.